Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. This is our weekend games, although it's more of a bi-weekend games these days, but still, here we are, here you are, here I am. Let's get to the news. Okay, well, it's probably not news without the announcement of another Lord of the Rings game, and I'm a sucker for Lord of the Rings games. I've bought just about every one I could get my hands on, with a few exceptions, most of which turned out to be neat, pleasurable games. Some was great, fantastic, like Star Wars Rebellion or Middle-earth Quest. But there's a new one called Lord of the Rings Quest to Mount Doom by Games Workshop that looks to be coming out later this year. That might be of interest to those of you who, like me, are Ringophiles, who absolutely have to have everything Lord of the Rings. There's that. The other announcement is that the Isaac Vega, who did Dead of Winter, has a game currently ready, I believe, kickstarting, called Starship Samurai. Now that one intrigues me because I love space. I like samurais, and I'm not sure whether this is a game that's samurai with starship theme to be funny, or whether it's starship. We'll know more detail. We know enough details to know it's intriguing my interest, and I trust the designer. He's done an excellent job in previous ventures. So that's something to be looking out for. Those of you who bought Bunny Kingdom, which was a little kind of a sleeper surprise for me, a fun game from last year by Richard Garriott of Magic the Gathering renown, have decided to listen to a lot of the purchasers who felt that while the game was great, it was very crowded and the map was teeny tiny. And so they are offering, for no charge other than shipping, the opportunity to get a larger board. And I ordered that early in March. They said shipping would be sometime in early April, and it hasn't. I still expect them to ship them out. I hope they will. But yeah, if anyone's interested in that and they have that game and they'd like to actually beef up the size of the board to get a little bit more breathing room, which I think is a great idea, I'm looking forward to it. Definitely go to the ILO website, and you'll see there that they're promoting it and where to purchase or to pay for the shipping to be able to get a larger board. And finally, on Kickstarter, the Street Fighter board game is upon us, and it's already met its goal. I have no doubt it will be a raging success, if by no other reason than the Street Fighter name. Took a look at it, and it's interesting because it's like a spatial 3D map. It's got 3D terrain, which is basically the trees from photosynthesis, and 6 characters that are high-quality miniatures. It's a deck-based game, it looks like, where you're picking a couple cards and then you bash them against it and see how these guys fight, which is interesting because Street Fighter to me has always been a 2D side-by-side character experience, which is interesting because all of the Street Fighter ness that I wanted, I get in War of Indies, Battle of Indies, which I think has taken that type of style of game and perfected it with just tremendous variety. So if you wanted something a little more on the side-by-side thing, War of Indies or Battle for Indies is a great game. Your characters are very unique, attacks unique. It really plays out like you're playing a back-and-forth side-by-side fighting game. This one is almost more like Power Stone to me. Like if you remember the old Dreamcast Power Stone games where you had this sort of 3D arena like Street Fighter, but you could basically use anything in the arena and stuff to bash and whatever. I don't think this has it. But it is interesting, and I'm sure it'll meet its goal because it's Street Fighter and the name alone should sell it. But I am interested. I'll keep track of it. I don't know if we'll bite the bullet on the price tag yet, but I probably will in the end, although for now the Indies series is more than up to showcasing what a back and forth Street Fighter like board game endeavor can be like. And that's really our news, so let's get to the question of the week. This week I got a great question. Well, actually I got a question a couple weeks ago from Jared, thank you, who asked several questions. One of the ones that intrigued me and I thought would be a really easy answer is, who is your favorite artist in board games? That might not have been exactly the phrasing, but it was something I thought, and I thought, oh, that's easy. And then I had to think about it, and I realized that for all of the great artwork that we have been blessed with over the last few years in particular, I was really, really intrigued to go, who is actually my favorite board game artist? Because art, like anything else, is subjective, so my tastes may differ and such, but who has who's just got that running track record where, it came down to this, and I thought, okay, What artist, if I knew they were doing the art for a game, would almost compel me to buy the game before I even knew what the game was about? Is there any artists that meet that criteria where the artists themselves actually translate into interest towards purchasing a game before even the game itself? And that's kind of a high bar. There's some I'm like, yeah, like, you're a great artist, but I'd still want to know about the game. But there's some where I'm like, their record of success or the record of games that they design art for, either the games work well as the artist or whatever. It was interesting, and I actually spent quite a bit of time on this, going through my collection, looking at all of the great artwork. I mean, to me, games are math and art, and I don't go without one or the other anymore, because the only abstract game I have is maybe chess. I just don't do it. I really like theme. I like art. It's not a qualification for a game. Obviously, there's a ton of great abstracts out there, but for me, it is. For me, I need the art to really compel me to immerse myself in the game. That's just who I am. As well as solid mathematical foundation, so a game isn't breaking or game balancing or like not well thought out, etc., etc. Let alone the design. Hey, but. So I came down to a few names as far as who is my favorite artist. And there are some that get kind of honorable mention. Xavier Durin, if I spelled his name right, did Lords of Dixit. Not Lords of Zidit. Hey, Dixit, Zidit. Correlation. Seasons, the Big Book of Madness, and the Tokaido. And I love his versatility, and I love his artwork. Rich, vivid. He gets honorable mention. It's kind of like the third place, maybe. In second place, I'd have to absolutely go with a local favorite, Beth Sobel, who in the last few years has just made way cool art. Viticulture, seriously, who doesn't want to live in Viticulture's board? And for that matter, Coldwater Crown, a fishing game, vivid, just really solid. I too want to go in and fish inside the board game art that she drew. There's World's Fair, etc., etc. So she gets definitely like high up, second place for me. But I realized as I went through that the one artist that just confounds me with the richness and the depth and detail is Mike Menzel, who's done Two Great Stone Age and all of the Legends of Andor games. And those just wow me. I just am amazed at that artwork, and the pedigrees on these artists are amazing. We are blessed to live in the time we do, where we have some of the greatest artists making game art for board games. I am absolutely astounded with that. So thank you for the question, and thank you for making me really take a look, and maybe not only did I answer the question, but I think I gained a healthy appreciation for all of the artists that I don't even get to mention. I mean, the guy that did the sideboard, he too gets some cred, and the brand Inca and Marcus, etc., etc. It just goes on and on. There's just so many people to just give kudos to. But those three names are the ones that are definitely high on my list. So thank you for the question of the day, and now let's get to my 3 games of the week. Okay, game number 1 is Anachrony, which I got. It's not new. I got it over Christmas, and it's a big box of bigness. Nothing like Gloomhaven, but still, not a one-handed feat easily. I have still not gotten to this all the way through this game yet. I have set it up on the table 3 times. I have gone through starting it, and then I've gone right back and put it back in the box going, I need to wait and have a little bit more time to go through it. It's got time travel, it's got water as a commodity, it's got big raging mechs for worker placement. It's got a lot of stuff, more than I can probably quickly ascertain and get into, but I am looking forward to trying it. Right now, Miniature Market today has it for like $35, so crazy. Second off, really enjoyed Black Orchestra. Get in, get done, get out, love it. Just a really well polished, streamlined game. The subject matter could have been, it's dark, but I'm really enjoying it. I'll probably do a review on this one. It's really good, but it's there's a lot of tension. It is co-op, but there's a lot of things that I don't like about co-ops. Some types of co-ops that this mitigates in a lot of ways, and it's actually really good solo. Another thing is sometimes co-ops aren't always necessarily conducive to solo. You can do it, but it isn't always easy. This one, like, it's perfectly good solo, optimal at times even solo. And finally, the last game, 4 Against Darkness. I'm going to try this out. This is weird. It's a book, and it's a book that basically tells you how to create your own dungeon on grid paper, make characters and whatever. It's kind of more like role-playing, so it's not technically a board game, so maybe I'm branching out. But 4 Against Darkness is, why not give it a shot? I haven't begun yet, although I am intrigued by the idea that I can just sit on a bus and maybe play a dungeon crawl or whatever. So, might be the start of something great, or it might be a one-hit wonder. Either way, it was inexpensive. And those are my 3 games for the week. Now let's get into Tim's Tantrum. Get off my land. Okay. My tantrum today is actually a little more serious than jovial. I actually wanted to kind of... One thing I've noticed over the last few weeks that I didn't realize, and this is more... It's less about preaching to an audience than it is about kind of rolling back to myself and saying, just so it's established here on video, to remind myself that not every game is easy for everyone to get. And I've noticed that lately, where I've seen people go, I've struggled with this game, I tried to learn it, it's really complicated, it's over my head. And one of the responses that oftentimes comes right after it is, well, I had no problem with it. Really? It seems easy to me. It wasn't any harder than N, or whatever. And I realized that I don't do that a lot, but it definitely kind of helped me like focus on and crystallize on the idea that that's really not an effective anything. It almost serves no purpose at all, because it just doesn't. Because I have found within myself, even recently, that there are games that have, 50 plus pages of rules that I can really get and understand and dive into, and it comes naturally for me. Pendragon, GMT games, lots of games with that. And yet there are games that come out with 2 or 3 pages and I really struggle to understand it and I just don't quite get it and I have to go back. And it's not like there's an escalating amount of difficulty. I'm like, if it's this difficulty level, I can get all games up to here. And then anything beyond that, I can't get. No, it doesn't work that way for me for some reason. Some people, maybe there's just like, look, just keep it. And definitely don't ever say, well, maybe you should just stick to insert game here. That is so not helpful to people. And for one thing, it's just I want to foster and bring people up and help people that don't necessarily understand games of a certain complexity to go, hey, well, we can try this way or that way. Be a solutions provider, not a I already know how to do this. I have no problem with it. Those just never work. And that's a lesson for me to always keep in mind as I'm dealing with people at different places to go, you know what? I'm cool with that. If this is a struggle, then fine. Let's find something else. Or, hey, do you work orally? Do you work visually? Do you like to read a manual front to back? I actually have employed all 3 of those methods at different times in my life and found all 3 have been effective in different phases of my life. And there's sometimes when a game just doesn't resonate. For example, I finished Pendragon, which is one of the more complicated GMT coin games out there, and yet I struggled figuring out the Grizzled for the longest time. And the Grizzled is like a little tiny box. Just a little box. Great game. But, so that's kind of my tantrum. My tantrum is that I want to always make sure that I'm being positive and I'm never actually telling someone who's having trouble with the game advice that isn't really advice. It just, there's always a way to foster and promote. Unless someone's like, it sucks. It sucks. The manual sucks. I don't get it. That's a different story and a different matter. Although there are some manuals. Never mind. Anyway, that's it for this week. I hope that you have a great week in gaming. And as always, keep whatever questions you want to send my way and keep it coming. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Harebrained Games.